Hello and welcome to Impera Project, a project built on a dream. We recently managed to finish the main story of Cyberpunk 2077, and to our surprise it was way better than what we expected. You have to understand, we are very critical when it comes to writing and storytelling, and we do not consider ourselves easily impressionable. And so, we approach every narrative experience, no matter the medium through which that experience is delivered, with utmost skepticism. Like we said, CD Projekt Red managed to appease our keen judgmental selves for a second time. So this is what we would like to discuss today, our dear friends and philosophy enthusiasts. We managed to break the narrative structures of Cyberpunk into three main subplots that enhance the overall experience, and we will do our best to explain every single one of them. We will try to keep the spoilers to a minimum, and we will talk about the main story and not the Phantom Liberty DLC, which will have a separate video. But before we start this video, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe to Impera Project if you enjoy our content. Recently we noticed a significant decline in the number of views per video and in other important metrics, aspects which we don't like at all. So if you enjoy our content and want to see more, please also turn your notifications on, as the YouTube algorithm seems to be constantly missing the key audience. Thank you very much, and now without any further ado, let's begin. The world of Cyberpunk 2077 is probably one of the worst nightmares someone can have. It's a world of union, but also of divide. It's a world of unchecked consumerism, of abject waste and unmeasured debauchery for the rich. It is a world despoiled of its resources in order to appease the unquenchable thirst of the few, while the many have to endure poverty and uncertainty. This game portrays a world in which corporations have become so massive that they own private armies and can start wars. We talked briefly in our previous video about the concept of corporate wars, so we highly recommend you watch the video, link in description. More than so, in the already established lore of the Cyberpunk universe, it is already stated that corporations own massive amounts of space, such as the South China Sea. What really made us interested in this depiction of our not so far future is not the idea itself. Obviously, this kind of world is not in itself something that original. One can envision it with ease. Dystopias and utopias are quite easy to create, and they are easily accessible to anyone. What really piqued our interest in the world building of Cyberpunk is that it checks every square and every trait of the society Mark Fisher tried to warn us about. If you haven't read the book Capitalist Realism, we have a couple of videos about it, so also check them out to complete the bigger picture. In short, Mark Fisher tried to warn the world about the impending doom of public property, be it physical property, highways, parks, lakes, institutional property, the transformation of the UK further education into a business, or intellectual property. It's a warning about the coming of a world in which everything is owned by someone, and Cyberpunk pretty much brings to life this kind of strange world. We see the local police force of Night City behaving more like some sort of club bodyguards, putting the interest of the rich and strong above the interest of the average citizen, not strafing away from bribes and scandals. We get to investigate the death of the mayor and the influence some unknown actors have over the favorite candidate, Jefferson Peralez. We get to see the people of Night City being abandoned and left at the mercy of their local fixer, an individual who arranges deals, a middleman, so to speak, and his or her mercenaries, or at the mercy of local gangs or paramilitary organizations, while the rich and powerful get to experience the best medical treatments, protection and many other perks. One of the first quests in Cyberpunk has V, the main character, and Jackie, his or her partner, rescue an abducted woman. At the end of the mission, we can see that because she had premium medical insurance, an ambulance full of military personnel came to aid her in a couple of minutes. In the end, the world building of Cyberpunk 2077 boils down to a number of questions about control and manipulation. It is a dilemma about where one should draw the line between public and private property. Night City is an independent city-state on the Pacific coast of the United States. The city was founded through the effort of multiple corporations, and in return, the political figures of the city implement corporate-friendly policies, such as a 0.7% tax rate on corporate profits. For this alone, the corporation Arasaka, first of them, ensured the independence of the Night City. It is obviously a terrifying prospect that this world might one day become reality, but not far from the truth. In this city of endless possibilities, of neon lights and unhinged advertisement, the value of one's life is equal to the amount of money one can obtain and subsequently spend. The second philosophical debate that can result from Cyberpunk's main story is related to the fear of losing one's sense of self, losing one's identity in a world that doesn't put much emphasis on individuality. This theme manifests itself both through the predicament V finds herself in, but also through what happened to Johnny Silverhand. Johnny Silverhand was the main singer of the rock band Samurai and actively despised corporations, especially megacorporations like Arasaka. All his life was a protest against depersonalization, about staying true to one's principle no matter the consequences. And he goes as far as to nuke the headquarters of Arasaka in a form of protest. This leads to his legacy being tarnished, and from rocker boy and activist, Johnny Silverhand gets labeled a terrorist. But that's not the worst part, as reputation is of little significance most of the time. Arasaka has a device, the Soul Killer, which can copy the contents of one's whole identity and reduce that person to an engram. Johnny Silverhand not only loses his reputation and ends up alone after disappointing most of the people that believed in him, but he loses his soul, until V accidentally finds it. Same goes for V, no matter what background she has. Once she accidentally meets Silverhand, their personalities overlap, as V's brain starts accommodating one more. This is the main story of Cyberpunk, finding a way to separate V and Silverhand before their body collapses under this unprecedented stress. Depending on the choices of the player, V starts to become more like Johnny Silverhand. She starts smoking, she starts behaving and reacting differently as the line between the two starts to blur. They can find common ground, things that unite them instead of dividing. It ties to the previous theme of manipulation and control and raises one interesting question we met before. How do you know your thoughts are your own? Even in our own mundane lives, it is hard to pinpoint exact manipulation. It is hard to truly say which ideas are the product of our own minds and which are artificially generated, result of one's cognitive might, or carefully built. Cyberpunk 2077 approaches these dark questions in a more palpable way. There is a different person in your head, a person which comes together with his ideas, his memories, and his ideology. How should one approach this particular situation? As the symbiosis between the two becomes clearer and they decide to meet each other in the middle, events that happen in game are seen under a different light.
Looks like I was right again. Told you I'd handle it.
Good to see you too, Johnny.
Usually people can't have all-encompassing understanding of another. Empathy tends to have its limits. But the relationship between V and Johnny Silverhand is a relationship that blurs the line between self and another.
For my friend, V, I'd never pull that on you. Never do you wrong.
Johnny. My friend.
What do I do, Alt?
Another clear example from the game is the case of Jefferson Peralez, the favorite candidate to become the mayor of Night City. During his quests, V can discover that a third party literally changes how his brain works by manipulating his memories, his sense of self, and his ideas from afar. He is a doll that's completely unaware that his mind is no longer his own, as the manipulation is subtle and aims to control him long term. If the player decides to tell him everything, Jefferson will become paranoid, losing every ounce of control left. He will start doubting everything and become extremely distressed by every single thing, suspecting foul play everywhere.
Hey, it's peralez. V, you're gonna want to hear this. But first, we need to go somewhere no one's listening.
The struggle to have and maintain your individuality is a core aspect of Cyberpunk. Even in our own world, it is extremely hard to stay true to your own principles and ideas, in a world where the real and the fake constantly intertwine. Now imagine how intense this struggle to maintain an identity would be in a world in which you can change your face on a whim, where you can replace everything with implants. Quite interesting. We will not go into the discussion about implants and the ship paradox because we ourselves don't have a sound opinion about it, and given the context, we tend to change sides. Johnny Silverhand is often named the Last Rockerboy. The rebellion of rock music against the status quo is well known. Throughout the last decades, rock music was a place of refuge against corporate greed, against capitalism, and against conservative systems of value. Rock music has always been about anger, about a society which doesn't value individuality and personal inputs. From songs such as Another Brick in the Wall of Pink Floyd, to Kurt Cobain's rebellion against the machine that put price tags on art that used to be MTV. Rock music has always questioned the rules and laws of a society that actively punishes and undermines personalities. In this context, it is only normal for the mighty terrorist that fights against corporate greed to be a rock star. Johnny Silverhand is clearly the embodiment of rockstar status, a status that is highly desired even by singers of other musical genres, because it comes with many perks. Being a rockstar was a symbol of freedom, and people that obtained this rank went down in history as legends, highly respected and deeply appreciated. Kurt Cobain, Chester Bennington, and quite recently Ozzy Osbourne. It was a rank that symbolized a man that does not care about societal norms, a man who owns his actions and doesn't stray away from the consequences of those actions. The rocker boy, as we all know him, is the perfect embodiment of fighting against the cogs of the machine. And more than so, it is the perfect banner to rally others. The music of the imaginary band Samurai is old-fashioned rock, and Silverhand's demeanor and appearance is clearly heavily inspired by the rock stars of the last century. From his smoking habit to the wild sex life and heavy drinking, Johnny Silverhand is the perfect sidekick of a otherwise pretty mild protagonist. This kind of behavior used to mean something, and it was done both as a form of expressing disapproval to the hermetic social norms of the late 20th century, but also as a way to have fun. Of course, the more stoic of you will say it is not something to write home about. Indeed, self-destructive behaviors are not something to be praised, but all the same they can say something about the inner workings of one's soul. The world of Cyberpunk is a clear depiction of what Mark Fisher feared the most, a society of corporations where private interest towers above the well-being of the citizens. It is a world in which individuality is easily stripped away, both metaphorically and practically. A world in which one's soul and values are the cheapest goods to be bought and traded. It is a world where the public institutions were stripped away of the little agency still left. A world of corrupted authorities in which you either learn to swim or drown. Johnny Silverhand represents a tribute to the rock stars of the past, of artists that did not succumb to the whims of a materialistic society, that can't wait to put a price tag on one's feelings. Unfortunately, just as Mark Fisher noticed, one of the worst abilities of capitalism is to transform its enemies into assets. Someone's fight against the system can be exploited and ironically strengthen the system as a whole. A truly terrifying concept. This is where our video ends, dear philosophy enthusiasts and friends. If you enjoyed our work, please don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe to Impera Project for more videos about philosophy and deep discussions. We want to see better results in the future than what we were given in the past couple of videos. So please interact with this video as much as possible, and we will gladly see you next time.